Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Her Power Podcast, a space created to educate, elevate, and empower young women in every role and season of life. My name is Sydney Ward, Miss Fall Fest Volunteer 2026, and I'm also the founder of the Rise and Reclaim Project, which is an initiative I started dedicating to helping women understand their worth, grow their confidence, and recognize the power that they already carry within. For each episode, we're going to be sitting down with a variety of change makers, title holders, athletes, and leaders in our community to talk about what self-worth, confidence, and empowerment looks like in each of their unique roles. Because here, we believe that when women rise, they don't just grow, but they reclaim who they were always meant to be. So let's get into today's episode. April is a Nations Cup gold medalist baton twirler, coach, leader, and current Miss Central Pennsylvania within the Miss America organization. She recently earned her master's degree from Penn State University, where she now works professionally while also serving as the coach of the Penn State Touch of Blue Majorettes. April is a former feature twirler at the University of Cincinnati, where she also served as student body president, combining her passion for athletics with leadership and advocacy on campus. Throughout her twirling career, she earned numerous national and international titles and distinctions while becoming known for not only her competitive success, but for her leadership and mentorship within the sport. Beyond competition, April is the founder of Next Gen Twirl, a baton twirling clinic focused on empowering and developing the next generation of athletes and performers. Through coaching, pageantry, and leadership, she continues to use her platform to inspire confidence, growth, and empowerment in young women. Please welcome today's guest, April Gable.
Hi, excited to be here.
Yes, and for everybody listening, I always like to give a little bit of an intro on how I know the guest. So April and I were both competitive baton twirlers. We both recently retired and have joined pageantry, so we can connect on a lot of levels. We're great friends. We grew up twirling together, twirling against each other sometimes, and we always have a good time together.
Heck yeah. I kind of miss it, but also sometimes don't. I miss you.
I know.
Don't miss the stress of it.
I know. Right before we started filming, we were just talking about how we missed being able to go to competitions and see each other, but we don't necessarily miss the competition, but just the socializing.
Yeah, like maybe one or two events that like we really loved, but past that, it was a good ride.
Yes.
Happy to be on this side.
Okay, so introduce us a little bit to yourself for those of you who may not know you, and also tell us about your journey into baton twirling and kind of what drew you to the sport.
Yeah, so I'm a people person. I absolutely am fueled by being around folks, being engaged with my community, or just getting involved in some kind of different way. And that's kind of how I got involved in baton twirling. I grew up and my parents put me in every single sport possible, and I was terrible at every single one of them. And so they were trying to be really tactical to find a way to blend all my different interests and potential strengths in athleticism. And we eventually saw the Majorettes from my high school, and my parents put me in that. I tried it out for a little bit, ended up quitting, and then came back to it because my little sister decided to pick up twirling, and I refused to let her be better than me, but it was very serendipitous because it brought me back into a revival of the sport, and I'm very grateful for the last, I'd say about 12 years, I've just kind of hit the ground running, and I would have never expected to be the head coach of the Touch of Blue and the Blue Sapphire here at Penn State, but I am, and now I get to pave the way for the next generation to succeed. But that's kind of a little bit about me. I love Penn State. I love the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cincinnati Bearcats, ice cream, Crocs, and Peppa Pig, to say the least. They come everywhere with me. I thought I got her when I moved to Pennsylvania, but turns out I had her at Cincinnati. But she has come to nearly every single Penn State home football game and away. She went to the Nations Cup gold medal ceremony with me, and golf outings, volunteer events. She's everywhere. So she will be at Miss Pennsylvania. I guarantee that.
Miss Pennsylvania. Okay. So both baton twirling and pageantry are both hobbies that are incredibly performance driven, and often are seen as kind of subjective sports. So how did you kind of learn not to tie your self-worth solely to your titles and achievements? Was there somebody that taught you that, or was it something that you kind of had to learn over time?
Yeah, ironically enough, my desire to stay authentic came from my time as a speech and debate member. While I was in high school, I was the speech and debate captain, and I did an event called Declamation, which I actually did speeches of other folks like Hoda Kotb, Caitlyn Jenner, and beyond. And from that, I was able to create my own story from it and be able to bring my own voice. But though I will say, as a young person, I did struggle with image and just self-worth, and I had an incredible coach named Miss Roediger, who I decorate every single graduation cap with her saying that says, "I wish you saw yourself the way the world does." And so I've been not only able to tie that into my own voice, but as an athlete, because like you said, some of these sports are just subjective. We could have a different style than what the judge is expecting to have. And so just being able to intertwine my personal self and how I hope to show up in the world, I think I found a lot of encouragement from that. And I continuously try to tell other folks to do the same, because ultimately, what if you get on the floor one day, whether it's the stage, the gym, or the field, and the judge is looking for a very specific type of person, and you decide to be someone else, and they were looking for you? So I'd rather take the gamble as me than anybody else, and I really thank Mrs. Roediger for that one.
Oh, I love that.
Love her.
That's actually such a really good saying. I never thought about it like that, but it's a really good point, because a lot of the times we, as people, especially ones that are super,
It's everywhere.
I love it. I think sometimes we get used to like putting our head down and doing the work that sometimes we miss even to enjoy it along the way and see how far we've come. And so we devalue ourselves a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And I think especially these last couple of years of twirling, I reflect a lot on how I really wanted to make Team USA in 2022. And I committed to it, and it was everything I wanted to do. And then I didn't make it. And then fast forward 3 years, I'm sitting in Italy after qualifying in the first seed, and I look at my coach and I went, thank God we didn't qualify. Thank goodness we had this opportunity to get so much stronger and to do so many other things, because had I qualified, I can guarantee you, right, like back in 2022, I can guarantee you I would not be sitting here right now. I would have not come to Pennsylvania. I would have not gone in to twirl another year at Cincinnati. I truly, really find that if you trust the process and you keep running your race, you're ultimately going to end up at your own finish line where you're meant to be. But yeah, that was definitely a tough one to kind of reroute the brain, but now I've just kind of let it underscore the rest of everything I do. You'll make it eventually, and it's going to be better than you ever expected it to be.
Yes. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that in the sense of, I remember when, I think it was the year before I won College Miss Major America, I was pretty sad about my placement. Not that I didn't win, but just where I ended up placing overall, I wasn't happy with. And I remember feeling really defeated, and Kelly was just like, well, let's make a plan and let's do it and let's focus on it. And that next year I worked so much harder and enjoyed it that much more and really put my all into it. And I think had I done what I wanted to the year before, maybe I wouldn't have pushed myself to that level. And so I do really think it's important. I know you are religious as well, but I'm just very I trust in God's timing, and that when it's meant for me, it will come, even if that's not now. And if it's meant for later, then it will too. So
it's been a good transition of faith. Even right before my artistic tour, I'm usually a basket case, as you know. I always kind of get really anxious. I need to talk it out. I need to cry it out. I need to do 6,000 tricks. And I literally went off to the side of the floor, totally abandoned Kelly and my coach Tabitha, and I just went and surrendered. I literally sat on my knees and prayed into a wall and just please take this. I know your timing's better than me, because of everything leading up to this moment, there's no way I can fail. And it was one of those testimony moments of walking down completely cool. Poor Tabitha's heart rate is going through the roof because her Apple Watch, she had to take it off because she was so anxious. And I'm just sitting there this is great. I'm singing a random childhood song about sweet potatoes in my head before I go on. And yeah, no, I think that's the best thing of just falling into the process, just letting it happen, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a title holder, or just a human. Just do your thing and it'll figure itself out.
Yeah, and I think that's the best reward for anyone who's out there wondering, because I think it's easy sometimes as people in general just to say, okay, well, I don't think I can do this, so I'm not even going to try. But kind of similar to your situation, I remember in 2024, I came off the floor from my final world performance. I had a no drop. It was probably the best performance I could have put out there. And I was just really happy with it. And I remember sitting before I went on the stage to get my score, and I just prayed, and I was literally like, God, if this is meant for me, I did my part, I worked the hardest I could have, and I was like, if this is meant for me, then it'll be what it's going to be. But if not, it's not. Maybe it wasn't for me, it wasn't my time. And I just remember going up, getting my score, and in a little moment of disappointment at the same time, I was like, well, I went out and gave it my all. I did everything I possibly could have. It just wasn't meant for me right now. And that kind of eased it a little bit for me, because the reward was still the fact that I did all that work and got to that point with no regrets anyway. So
Yeah, and I think a big testament to you too. And I know we need to transition to the next topic, but I remember that, and I remember watching the live stream. So I was texting you during it, and it truly was like, it's one of my most favorite performances to ever got to watch live, even though it wasn't in person. But you know what I mean. But I think the thing that stood out to me the most was that in that kind of case, when you know that you were very deserving, but another candidate was also very deserving, you did not take the time to tear her down or to bring her down. You decided to lift her up. You took pictures, you encouraged her. And I think that was something that really spoke volumes to me, because I think as our sport adapts and it grows and more of us Gen Z leaders are at the helm of the ship, we're seeing more and more fangirls or just encouraging girl boss energy, maybe in a sense, with people. And yes, I wish there could have been 2 gold medals in that moment, but I just thought your humility through it, and just hearing that kind of side of the story, just it really does show who you are. And I hope that whoever's listening will kind of see it from an elite athlete, that hey, you could train everything and do everything you need to do, but ultimately it might not be a part of your story. It might be theirs, and you cannot stand in front of their blessing. So, amen, all the things.
Yes. So, as someone who has accomplished quite a lot, both academically, athletically, professionally, have you ever struggled with the pressure to kind of constantly maintain that level of success or even busyness in your life, and kind of how did you handle that?
Yeah, I've had several moments that my mom, my Karen Zuko, and I had to sit down, and she had to kind of give me the hard talk of like, you are juggling too many plates right now. Your plate is far too full. You have too many tabs open. And I'm the type of person that I love to be busy, and especially throughout my undergrad, I was balancing being a full-time student employee at the missions office and an intern for central marketing and student affairs and the student body president and a resident advisor and a tour guide, and I was in the featured twirler. I was trying to do all these things. And ultimately, when I left college, I realized that, yes, I was 23 and I still had many, many years ahead of me, but I lost that core 3, 4, 5 years of just being a young adult because I was so fixated on the grind. And now, as I venture I'm actually kind of past the mid-20s mark at 26 now. Oh my gosh. I've really started to value the time that we have on this planet. I'm a big quotes person. If you haven't put that together yet, I have a quote bank. I highly recommend what you do. Just put it in your notes app. But for me, one of those that I just repeat on a daily basis, well, 2 of them is like, what are you going to trade today for? And then time is the most valuable currency. Once you spend it, you can never get it back. And so for me, I've really tried to challenge myself to invest in the small moments. I really love to make art. I really love to sew costumes. I really love going on walks. And so how can I implement that in my day-to-day? And I think as a professional where your main thing is your job, it does help a little bit, whereas I feel like college students, we can pack on a lot. So I found that, okay, if I'm work from home, I can get up a little earlier, walk to the coffee shop, come back. For my lunch break, I can work on a little project and then just kind of revive myself. But yes, I've definitely through the interventions with Karen and just knowing that you only get so much time to be this age and I need to slow down and stop focusing on things. However, I say that and ultimately I'm trying to juggle. We're just going to try to do 4 Baton right now. We're not trying to do 6 or 7 Baton. So yes, but I love to be busy, but I do think there is a deep emphasis right now on just enjoying the moment. And one of my projects right now is my Show Me Your Shoes parade, and I'm hand painting it entirely. It's a pair of shoes. I'm doing little relics and historical moments around Belfont, where I live. Yeah, I've been really enjoying that, and it's been a very peaceful process.
I actually completely relate to that, because something that I was unprepared for, I've always, like you said, I think this is common in twirlers to begin with, is taking on a lot of extracurriculars. We're very good multitaskers. But my first year of my master's degree, I realized that I was like, it's really hard, because when opportunity knocks, you want to answer that door, but sometimes you have to close it even when you don't want to, because if you can't, that's something I value now, is being able to, you want to be able to give 100% to every priority and not put something on the back burner because you're too busy. And so recognizing that, to be respectful to the person or the task that it also is, saying no sometimes is better than taking it on to put it on the back burner, So,
and even with that, like having to learn to be okay that you can't be everything. And that's something that, not in contrast to what you said, but like in an extension of it, is like, I knew my full-time job was going to be my priority right now. But then I also knew that my part-time, but technically full-time coaching job was going to be the second priority. But then ultimately getting to be on Team USA for the first time as an individual was my lifelong dream. So that also needed to be. And so it's trying to find different ways of like, okay, where does the grad school fit in? Is this a Sunday commitment? Am I only doing grad school on Sundays? And then having to ebb and flow with teamwork. Like that was definitely something that I had to realize that, hey, you might not be the 4.0 student. That just might not be possible. If you have to sacrifice getting to absorb the material rather than writing the best reflection essay, that's just what you're going to have to do, because ultimately the knowledge is more important. But there's like those little sacrifices of saying no and then being able to be like, it's okay if this is the 30% thing that I'm giving, so I can give 70 extra over here. Something I'm still trying to learn, but also very grateful that I have a little bit of time off before I have to do homework again. Yeah. So
yes, I think how would you say that your confidence has evolved over time, especially I guess if you think as an athlete, maybe to growing up to now being a coach and a mentor, or same with your jobs professionally, kind of how has your definition of confidence for yourself changed over time?
I really think these past couple of years of twirling redefined my self-worth. I had always wished and aspired to be one of the big girls. Like I always wanted to be one of the elite twirlers. I wanted to make the top 20 solo. I wanted to be in the final lineup for the top 10 Miss Majorette. And as much, kind of like what you were saying earlier, like as much as I pushed for it and I wanted it, it just wasn't timing. It just wasn't there for me. And I quickly realized that instead of trying to focus on the things that I wasn't cut out for, like that it was not the shape I was meant to be fitting in. I was a star in a circle hole. And it wasn't meant for that when I was able to start focusing on, okay, what do I enjoy about competitions? What can I bring to the room that makes people feel even better when they are there or when they're around me? And that was kind of, I don't necessarily love saying it because it's one of my biggest pet peeves, so like the miscongeniality of the twirling world. Like I wanted to be seen as a valued advanced athlete. I want to be a competitor, but ultimately I know what it's like to be the odd person out, surrounded by talents like you that I couldn't keep up with the ability, but I could keep up with the social, and I was there to cheer them on just as much as they were there for me. And I think when I stopped trying to force myself into something that, truthfully, when you start at 14, that yes, you can catch up, but you're already 10-ish years behind everybody else. I needed to run my race. And I know I keep saying that, but I think I found so much joy in these last years by taking 0.5s and being known for the girl that carries around the Peppa Pig, or just being like the friendly face that cheers someone on or warms them up or comments on their Instagram stories or posts. And I think that whenever I started to invest in myself and what I was good at, my confidence just started to bloom. And it brought me next gen. It brought me to a Division I coaching opportunity and ultimately led me to my gold medal. But yeah, I think it's definitely developed, and I credit a lot to Baton, and I credit a lot to the people around me that weren't trying to mold me into that elite twirler. Like, yes, they were trying to make me an elite twirler, but not trying to be in that. That is my reasoning for there. They were like, no, you have a different place. So I hope I look back in 20, 30, 40 years when we're the old heads doing stuff and at the competitions and be like, oh, okay, like she was super nice to be around, or she's a good judge because I know that she's trustworthy and she's got a good spirit behind her rather than one thing or another.
Yeah, I would like to say to everybody, I can't speak on behalf of anybody else kind of in my generation or that grew up competing around the same time I did, but I will say April truly changed my outlook on competitive twirling. Like, I will say that 100%. Because she truly is the definition of like everybody's girl's girl. Like literally she's everybody's hype girl. And I think it kind of came with collegiate twirling too, because I got introduced to a new group of people like April who are just so positive and they just love twirling and they love representing their school and they love the fun of it. And that's something growing up as an elite athlete I didn't focus as much on. And meeting people like April, I was like, wow, this sounds horrible, but there is so much joy in this that I'm missing out on because I'm focusing on the wrong part. And so the last couple of years of my collegiate twirling and competitive career were so much more enjoyable because of people like April and other people that we had that were just enjoying it and taking silly videos and not caring as much about the competition and yet still being very productive and successful. So I just want to commend you for that, at least for me. I can't speak on everybody else, but I will say it definitely had an impact on me. So thank you.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. That means a lot. Because I remember seeing when you won every single grand national championship in Canada. I was like, I want to be your friend so bad. I think that was like one of the things I first said to you. It's like, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to be your friend. And then that's really creepy. That you just said
I wish more people, I think we all kind of sit because we're all serious and like we all focus on training that we all think, if I reach out to this girl, they're going to think I'm weird. But it's like, no, we all want that. We all want it. We just, no one ever does it. And so I appreciate you for taking the initiative and being that person for everyone.
I think that's what I miss the most is now I see that, like, I'm not taking the credit for it anyway, but I will say I was maybe one of the supporting assets to push that kind of vibe through. But now I see it kind of continuing, and I see people doing the TikTok trends or asking people for pictures or just like more friend groups in twirling than ever before. And I'm very jealous. Like I kind of miss it. And I know my time has come and my time is far past, but gosh, like it's just so nice to see, and I hope that's what they continue to do. And I hope that there's a professional way for me to stay involved with twirling until I get my judge's license. Hopefully it'll be something like that. And that's why next gen is a thing. I'm like trying to steward that a little bit over here.
Yeah, I love that. Would you consider yourself, have you always been somebody that's extroverted and outwardly confident? And so was leadership kind of a natural role for you? Or was that something that you got more into as you got older, into adulthood?
Yeah, I think when I was a little kid, I was super shy, like a little kid. And then for some reason, some switch flipped, and I've been the way I have been for goodness knows how long. I remember running for my first student council position in third grade to be the member at large for my elementary school. And then I became the secretary and then the student body president or the student council president. And it was all kind of driven in the sense that I knew it was kind of similar to what I just said of that, I knew that my role wasn't to be the kid that knew all the answers, and it wasn't the kid that was bringing in all the cool new toys or something like that, the fastest on the playground. But I was friends with so many different groups, and not to sound pretentious in any way, but I just love to talk. My mom passed me the beautiful power to gab, and so just being able to connect with different groups, and I was like, oh, this person's having this problem, or they are really like this. Well, I know this person over here really likes this. And so that's how my leadership style has kind of developed, especially as a coach, especially as a higher education professional. I just want to make sure that if there is a way for our communities to be connected, that potentially I'm that keystone member, that it can be flowing through that. It's not, oh, April connected us. It's, or, oh, we know each other because of April. It's, oh, she connected us, but this is far past her. Like now it's, I'm trying to think of like the needle in a sense, or like the thread, but it's like I'm not even the thread, I'm just kind of there to get that started. And so my future goal is to be a university president, because while serving as the undergraduate student body president at Cincinnati, I was able to connect so many different student groups with the proper senior leadership and the senior leadership to the students in different capacities. And that's something that I see a lot in university presidents. They juggle many different hats, but they're surrounded by people that are so well experienced and so well knowledgeable in their fields that their whole responsibility truly is to just be that connection point. And so I credit the student government elections in elementary school to just the experiences now, but truly just the people that have continued to, allow me to be that little facilitation, because if people didn't want me around, then I couldn't do that. And so I'm very grateful in that respect.
Yeah. I will say I have always been involved in leadership roles to some capacity with twirling, but this past year taking on a role in the Division of Student Affairs. I've never worked in higher education or anything like that, but it has been a door opener for me on just growing professionally, how to lead, how to talk to people, and that's something I underscored the value of before ever working in it, because I've never worked or studied anything in like higher education. But now that I've kind of seen the door into it, I appreciate those leaders and those people at the top level a lot more for everything that they do behind the scenes.
It's a fascinating career, because I'd say it's 50-50 of the people that work in it that even when I was a student, 50% have intentionally wanted to go into student affairs in some kind of capacity or higher education. But then 50% find their way in somehow, whether they were an RA or whether they were a student intern or some kind of capacity, and they said, this is something I want to do. And yeah, it's a really cool career, and I just hope to continue kind of investing into that interest a little bit more, but the people are good.
So kind of throughout your variety of roles and as you've developed as a leader over time, what is something that you would say is one of the qualities you believe all leaders should have, or like that successful leaders should try to pursue?
Huh. This is going to sound really weird, but it's like childhood wonder or childhood joy in a sense. And I know that sounds really silly, but I think in a world where we're so caught up with spreadsheets and numbers and goals and all these different things that we also need to bring it back to the root of what we're doing. And there are some jobs, don't get me wrong, like the medical field, that you need to be intentional with everything that you're doing. But in some other roles, I find that we get really upset about small things, whether they didn't respond to my email within 48 hours or this form didn't print out right. But rather than seeing it in such a minute, like these details aren't lining up and all this stress, if we kind of reframe it as a child, I get to do this, or I want to grow up and I get to have this opportunity, or how cool is it that I got lunch catered? And I know that's not necessarily answer your question, but sometimes when I do get a little stressed or overwhelmed with all my commitments, I try to take a step back and think about, okay, how would younger April approach this? She would be so happy to have a seat at this table. She would be elated to be able to have food provided for her. And wow, she hates sending emails, but hey, look at who she's sending an email to. And so I think if we really reverted back to our kids, our kids' selves, or even just look at our current generation of our future years, get to learn a lot from them. And if you can't have a young one around you, I highly recommend, or you don't have a young one around you, I highly recommend Kid President. He's got his head on right. But like from 2010, I think, was when he started making those videos.
Yes, I remember that King.
But like, imagine if we all just went to work and we acted like Kid President. Like, you saw that how awesome you got a job. How lucky it is that you get to put food on the table. I know that's something that seems so small, but I think about my own experiences. I'm like, that's just, it sucks, but it's a get to.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, something I remind myself a lot, especially this past year where I feel like sometimes I'm running on absolute empty some days, but I'm just still showing up and still trying to give my best. And I'll just sit sometimes in my car and be like, before I say anything or complain about anything, these are days I used to pray for and moments that I used to wish I could have. And so before I even say anything, I'm just like, no, the first feeling is gratitude, because I couldn't have even imagined this 2 years ago, and now I'm sitting here. So I should be grateful for the fact that I get to do this. So yeah. I like that perspective shift. I would consider you a very strong woman in leadership. And so do you think that women in leadership are often expected to try to balance their level of confidence and likability a little bit differently than men in the professional space?
Yeah, I reflect a lot of time on my experience within Dr. Jane Soika's Women in Sales class. I took it, I think it was my 4th year of college, and luckily it was not about spreadsheets and curriculum, or the curriculum wasn't full of spreadsheets and numbers, because thank goodness that was not for me. But it was really finely tuned around how women have a unique ability to sell, but more so connect with people and build rapport in different ways. And I've kind of run with that because women sell very different than men. And as a philanthropist, not philanthropist, but I am, as a philanthropic guide for alumni, trying to kind of reroute their affinity and help them make the impact they want to do, I've been mentored by so many different men that are incredible and that are super, super helpful. But ultimately, it's against my grain. It's not how I approach the subject. It's not how I want to talk to somebody. We're always told to have these big, long prep sheets. And I do utilize them, but I'm not afraid to venture off, because ultimately, I know that through my experiences in Dr. Soika's class and just being a woman in leadership, I know who I am. I will end up with the right goal I need to at the end of the day. But I think women, there's a lot of things in this world, even just kind of like if you think about scissors, they're not meant for left-handed people. So there's a lot of things in this world that were not made with women in mind. And I think when we're able to take that foundation, look at it, and redevelop it for our own selves, we find a lot more success. So if you ever have extra time, I highly recommend looking up Dr. Soika on YouTube, because she has a lot of different chats on there. She's got a TED Talk, but I look back on that class and I just, because again, why would you even think a sales class was going to be talking about elevator pitches? I mean, maybe a little bit, or business card development, or how to have a conversation. It was so insightful that I was just so pleasantly surprised that I wasn't stuck in a room kind of doing the black and white. I got to bring a little bit more color. And I think that's the beauty of just leaning into the femininity, the beauty of leaning into the woman empowerment, rather than just trying to go at it the same way it's always been.
Yeah, I definitely like that. A good perspective switch right there is that we are all uniquely made different and wonderfully made. And so we all have our unique skills. And instead of looking at it as I'm different from this person, so I can't do it like that, we'll use what you have to do it. It might be a better way. And so I like that you mentioned that. It's good.
Dr. Slick was great. It was definitely such a breath of fresh air when I walked in and I realized what the class was. And because she had told me to take it because we were collaborating on a different initiative previously. And such a relief because I didn't see myself as a saleswoman because I was trying to put it into that direct mold that I saw. And whether that be a mold of a man or a mold made by a man. And it was really enlightening. And I try to champion all UC students to take that class, or folks that aren't UC students to just somehow find a way to just hear that and change it.
So through some of your leadership roles, a lot of them, especially the ones with Next Gen and your coaching and mentorship, you're working closely a lot with young athletes and specifically young girls in very formative years of their life. And so how do you kind of intentionally create spaces where women are feeling safe and valued and empowered when they're with you or being led by you?
Yeah, so for Next Gen, it truly came from a desire to. I had originally was trying to think of different ideas of how I can make Team USA possible for me. I couldn't ask my parents for any help. I'm doing it on my own as a pretty fresh post-grad member of society, and I wanted to do a clinic series, and there's a lot of twirlers out here. And instead of just doing it on my own, I thought, how cool would it be to bring other people together? Just simply originally for the fact of like, how cool would it be to allow other members of Team USA to have an avenue to help finance their trips? And then it kind of grew past that because I shook that idea of money out of it. And I was thinking about, okay, how could we impact as many people as possible? I think about my time wanting to get on Team USA and having those conversations with young girls, seeing me and others on it and being like, how can we make sure that Next Gen is a connection point, that they're able to meet the University of Texas twirler, they're able to meet the University of Memphis, the Blue Sapphire, Miss Major America, all these different things. How are we able to embed that into one? And so it's by I hope Next Gen dang it. Sorry, I don't know if you got that little noise. But ultimately for me, Next Gen became a space for girls, men, women, everybody, coaches, to be able to connect with the next generation, not only as those looking to recruit, but those looking to be in their same spot. But even like stepping away from that, when it comes to Next Gen, like we do not talk about what level you are in twirling. Like if you are higher up than the group that you're working in, you are more than welcome to move on to something else. If that group that you're in is a little too hard, go to the next one, but there's no shame built into it because I know what it's like to be behind, and I never want a camp experience to reinforce that. But even expanding, and then I'll quiet up on that, but there's no it's a very accessible camp. I make sure that it's less than $75 and you are getting as much out of it as possible. It's only that cost so that I could pay my instructors at an accurate and well-paid rate for their time and their expertise, standard across the board for every single clinic I do. And I make sure that it's not only cost effective, but there is no talk of failure or fear or body or limitations. Like it's a space that we're just supposed to have fun. We're supposed to enjoy twirling, but we're also being focused on our goals. So I don't take it lightly, and it's something that I haven't been able. We held a wonderful clinic in January, and I want to make sure I'm giving it everything I possibly can. So I definitely put it off to the side for a moment, but I'm excited we're gonna have something in fall, maybe a couple things in the fall, and you'll definitely be tied into it. But long story short, it's definitely a blessing, but it's a big responsibility too.
And one thing I will say that I enjoyed about Next Gen is the accessibility of it, because not only was it an affordable space for everybody, but it's also a way for them to meet other instructors without it having to be a big competition or a big event that people are traveling to. It's a little less formal in a way, and you feel sometimes more connected to those people, even if it is through online. So
thank you. And it took the stress off of like these twirlebrities kids saw. Like they didn't have to go and say hello to them while they're trying to warm up for the Grand National solo or before they're doing a twirl off. They could do it in a more confined or like a more dedicated space, so that way that introduction is already done, that they can give them a hug, take their picture when they see them at the competition, and continue on. And like it just, at first I never expected it to become what it is, but it's pretty cool. Like it's become its
Yeah.
own little brand, and I don't want to lose it. And so that's why I'm like, gosh, we need to get something planned. But I think we've had such success that I don't want it to be anything
Yeah.
but a great experience. So
Yeah.
quality over quantity.
Yeah, for sure. But I do like it. I like the space that you've created with it. So definitely continue it. So, in any of those roles that you have, had you had any athletes or students that have ever impacted you or inspired you in unexpected ways that you didn't see coming?
Of course. So I currently have this student named Leah who's going to be a sweetheart majorette at the University of Kentucky this upcoming fall. And originally I started as just a practice coach for her. She has her own studio, her own internal coach, but they were looking for additional assistance. And the more we got into the weeds of preparing her for the different areas of college auditions, nationals preparation, IBTF qualifiers, I realized that I was doing a disservice to her by just holding on to her myself and having only one other additional person. So from that, we collaborated with her coach to surround her with a community of people. And I think that's the beauty of the twirling world is that similar to what we said earlier is the more that we venture further into it, the more collaboration and willingness to work with one another is happening. Like students are not having just one coach, they're having multiple, they're having villages or team XYZ. And so I think I learned a lot from knowing what my strengths were and utilizing that connection point, that connection leadership style to be like, okay, I can get you so far on this, but we're going to have to bring X, Y, and Z in, but also ensuring that the original home base is okay with it, that's well communicated with. So she's definitely reshaped my way of viewing coaching, but also like to be an advocate for her, but also sometimes I teach her things, and she's an advanced level athlete, and I never thought I would be able to get her so like tangible stuff to work on, and she is, and I just feel very useful in that respect. So definitely getting to, be that connection point for her, but also understanding how to be humble when you want to, I'm a collegiate level coach. I should be able to provide for her, but I also can provide for, maybe I'm supposed to provide for her by the connections that I can have for her.
Yeah, I like that in recognizing sometimes that you might not always be the best, and I'm not even saying for this specific scenario,
Yeah.
but just in general, it might not always be the best thing for you, or you might not be the best thing for somebody else, and that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It just means maybe just a shift in redirection.
Between all her little cohort of coaches, like I am truly her practice, her training coach. But with all of them, they have transformed her tenfold within the last year, and we really just work on face and body movements together. But it's cool to still be a little part of it all.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a lot of my mom students at home because I helped train a lot of them when they were really young, like just starting. And even still, they'll still message me sometimes asking for help or lessons here and there. And it's nice to still be like a part of their journey, even if it's small scale. So you are currently holding a title in the Miss America organization. So tell me a little bit about what brought you into the world of pageantry and what made you want to pursue that.
Yes, so professional and personal development was truly what brought me in. I've always wanted to do the Miss America opportunity. I've always wanted to be a title holder. And it just didn't line up. It just the financial cost and time cost between twirling, college, and pageants just was not possible for me. So when my time came to a close back in August last year from twirling competitively, I realized that I wanted to take a break. I just wanted to kind of focus on being April for a little bit. And then I posted a TikTok of Miss America crowning, and it kind of went a little viral. Like it was a little viral, but it got a lot of people commenting on it and celebrating these women, and talking about how their past family members were involved in it. And just so happened that Victoria Vespico, the current Miss Pennsylvania, saw it and she commented on it and we connected. And that was kind of that little catalyst moment for me that was like, maybe this was my sign to get involved. And so for me, it was something I've always looked in the window for, but I needed that level of encouragement or that level of camaraderie with my fellow peers, but it was definitely the perfect timing. And so for me, I knew that it was best because I wanted to still keep twirling. I was at the best I've ever done. I had just been riding the high of winning a gold medal, and I wanted to still continue it. not in competition form. And so that allowed me to do it. And I wanted to make sure that I was still staying physically active. And that's part of Twirling in the Miss America Fit Initiative. But reflecting back on our previous conversation, I knew that I wanted to get back to being a high level communicator, that I was on the speech and debate team. I was saying like them, so far too much. And I knew this was going to be the perfect thing for me. So it has been very serendipitous, to say the least. My talent coach is one of the featured twirlers I've looked up to most, like almost in my entire life. My interview and paperwork coach and just all over pep talker, Caroline, is I do her social media for one of her twirling brands, and she does my interview prep for me. And it's just been one of those serendipitous moments. I remember when we were at nationals and they called her out for being 2016 Miss Texas. And I was like, how cool would that be? How cool would it be to meet her? And to be able to be on weekly Zoom calls with her has just been really cool. And just everything that goes into the Miss America initiative, I knew that it was the next best step for me as April to kind of redefine those skills and refine them as well, but to also continue to pay back everybody that's given to me. And ultimately, that was the greatest decision of when I got to PA, I had the most phenomenal gym to be able to practice in for free here. And so being able, how can I work with their initiatives and help continue feeding their members and their constituents at that gym, or just get involved in the Bellefonte community that let me rally up as being a member of Team PA and, taking me all in. So long story short, whether it's TikTok or it was Baton or just wanting to finally get to be a part of the sisterhood, I'm very grateful for it. And I get another, hopefully 2 years within the whole system, and then I'll be maybe a director for a local or a volunteer one day, but I'm excited for it and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, as someone who entered pageantry a little less knowingly, I guess you could say, I kind of entered more on a whim, but I will say and reiterate all those things April said, is I never expected to grow so much personally and professionally through the world of pageantry. I've noticed it's changed the way I speak to people. It changes the way I network and make connections with people. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity and just how it's shaped me over the years.
I've really enjoyed the most, or that I've seen the most change in myself, is just day-to-day interactions with folks.
Yes.
Okay, you might be having a bad day, but Miss Pennsylvania isn't going to be rude to this person. Miss America is going to make someone smile by complimenting their rain boots, like I saw earlier today. And that's not I'm doing all these things, I'm being this great person. It's like, ultimately, there's one woman that gets crowned every year. And if that's you, phenomenal. And if not, what is your crowning moment that is not tangible? How can you continue to be a winner and a representative for the organization even without a sash? I mean, you still have your local title. And so I think that rewiring of showing up the way that I know that those women that I aspire to be will. And I'm really challenging myself to even do better of like maybe even dressing in a little bit nicer when I go out because Miss Pennsylvania will, or spending more time reading literature because Miss Pennsylvania is well knowledge. So it's that little niche moment that flips in your head that you're like, okay, I want to be the best version of myself.
Yeah, something I never realized. I mean, I grew up watching Miss America and all the pageants on TV and looking up to those girls in the crowns. Obviously, very surface level as a young kid. But now growing up and being a part of it, it's so interesting to see something like Miss America or Miss America Volunteer. You watch and there's 50 girls on that stage and only one leaves with the crown, but the other 49 leave a better woman than they came into that 100% because of this opportunity and their title. And so I think that's always really important to remember, that it's not really about the crown, it's about kind of who you come out on the other side because of this opportunity, and that I've always been grateful for. We're going to close out a little bit. I have 2 more questions left for you. So the first one would be that if you could speak to younger April, who is just starting out her twirling career or her debate career in the 3rd grade, what would you tell her now?
I guess I would say what Miss Roediger said. I wish you saw yourself the way the world does, because that has been such a defining moment of my entire life of we didn't have the best home life. We didn't always have everything quite available for us in one way or another, but ultimately you were going to make it there. And I guess another quote on that is that if anybody can do it, it's you. And that was something my other mentor, Katie Noah, told me. She was my community coordinator and why I became an RA and why I was so vested in higher education. But you're going to make it. It's not going to be the most seamless thing. But ultimately just keep showing up. I wish I would have had a little bit more self-confidence in myself as a kid and was able to kind of see myself in that respect. So, I would send those quotes maybe a little earlier to her. Not to throw anything off, but she's going to get them eventually.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Not to keep throwing religion down anyone's throat, but last week I was listening to a sermon and our pastor said something around the lines of, when you go on a journey, whether it's your calling, whether it's professionally, educationally, the journey is always harder than expected, but more rewarding than you ever could have imagined. And I think that's such an important thing to remember throughout anything you do in life, is that challenges may come, tribulations may come, and it's going to be harder than you probably thought. But when you get through that tunnel, the reward is so much greater. And so I think that's great advice for anybody. Okay, so my last question is, my platform, Rise and Reclaim, is built on 3 main words, and our mission is to elevate, empower, and educate. And so of those 3, which of those words resonates most with you in this season of life and why?
I think educate. As a higher ed professional, that's profoundly a lot of what I do, and ensuring that folks are well educated on the offerings that we have for philanthropic desires. But as a title holder, one of my main key parts of my platform is the education and awareness building of food insecurity. And I host a little series called the Pantry Made series, and it's teaching people how to cook. It's finding readily accessible things in your pantry or at food banks across the country that we can put together in a nutriently dense meal. Wow, the comm degree is really working overtime right now. But it's to be able, and I make a little video and I post it online so it's accessible to that format, but then I also bundle up all those ingredients and drop them off around wherever I am really that day with that QR code and that recipe. But because of that, my goal is to educate. I want them to know that, yes, you can have access to these different resources, but just having a fishing pole there, yes, it's great, but unless you know how to use it, you're not going to be able to feed yourself. And so I think education is truly entwined in everything that I do, whether that is in my professional role as a title holder or as someone that's on their way to earning their DED eventually. But I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate you just bringing awareness to those topics and just being so authentically willing to talk about them, because I think that's the first step, and that's something I champion within hunger and food insecurity, is just being able to talk about it and just making it just another day, so that when people ask for help, it's not this stigmatized thing. It's just oh, you need help? Cool, let's go over here. So I appreciate you.
Yeah. I will say too, that's something working in healthcare and learning more throughout my master's degree and my work with Rise and Reclaim, is that access does not equal action. Just because it's available, like you said, doesn't mean you know how to use it, doesn't mean you even know how to get there. And so having these people, title holders similar to you, leaders in our community, that can be that point of connection to bring them to, hey, here's these resources that you might not even know are in your community right here for you, and we want to help, and we're here for you. And so I appreciate the work you do and all the title holders in our organizations do for their communities. So April, thank you for coming on today and having this conversation with us on Her Power. It was a really powerful reminder that success is more than just our titles and our accomplishments, but it's the impact that you leave on everybody around you in your community. So be sure to follow along with April's journey and support Next Gen Twirl, and continue to cheer her on in her twirling and her journey to the Miss Pennsylvania pageant in June, right?
Yes, and we compete in a month.
Are you excited?
Yeah, so I am so excited, and that's what's throwing me off, is I'm such an anxious Nelly, and I'm 70%, let's do this, 20%, okay, we still have some work to do, and 10%, but it's slowly closing in on 80% up. I am just excited to be there and to see everybody, and I've always wanted to do this, so just to be, like you said, just to be able to be a part of it, it's like vacation. I know it's not vacation, but it feels
really
like it
is. Every year that I've done Miss Tennessee, I have enjoyed it so much. It is just a week. It's almost like summer camp when you're a kid. It's what it reminds me of a lot because it's so much fun because the work is done and now you're just kind of showing it off and having fun with all these girls.
And you get to wear all of your dresses, and that's the childhood wonder of it all. I get to dress up, I get to feel my best, I get to look my best, I get to eat delicious food, I get to talk to wonderful people, I get to bring Peppa around, and I get to twirl on the stage. And I mean, if not us, then who is a fan of performing? So yes. I'm really looking forward to it. I know I'm just going to get more and more excited as the time comes, and I can't wait to cheer you on at your pageant in July.
Yes, I know. We're going to be busy girls this summer, all the pageants, but we will be cheering you on, and thank you for coming on and having this conversation with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Her Power Podcast. A special big shout out to April for coming on and sharing a little bit about her journey and her story into pageantry and twirling. Her story is really impactful and really inspiring to the next generation of both athletes and young women. And so I hope you took away from this conversation that your worth is so much more than what you do on the outside, but how you impact and treat other people. And so to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and please remember that your power is already within.